Hey guys, I'm here to talk to you about scene two. We finally made it to the end of Hamlet. Um, but two object options with you. Since we are in the times that we're in, it's not exactly the final essay as we would have done. You're going to have some different options. So at 2 o'clock on Thursday, I'm going to go over that with you. I would love for you to hop on if you are available. If you are working or unable to get on because of internet issues, please just let me know. It's weird that we are here. We would have finished this well before spring break, but we finally made it. So Act 5, Scene 2 is one long scene. I'm going to go through it relatively quickly just because of this technology program and its limitations. But hopefully you were able to fill in the missing holes with the videos and the text itself. So we start out the scene with Hamlet and Horatio talking, and Hamlet is finally able to give Horatio more of the story of what happened. So he talks about how one night when he was on the way to England on that ship, he couldn't sleep and he kind of felt his way downstairs and he found the letters. And he knew then in that moment that Claudius was trying to kill him. So Horatio said, well, what'd you do? And right here on line 45, he said that he changed the letters. And he says, the letters now say, without debatement further, more or less, he should, those bearers put to sudden death, not shriving time allowed. So those bearers are the two carrying the envelope, and the two carrying the envelope would be Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. So Hamlet has changed the letters to say that they should be executed, and Horatio questioned how Hamlet was able to make that look authentic, and Hamlet talks about how he used the Danish seal, his father's seal, and it looks exactly the same. And so Horatio says, so Rosencrantz and Guildenstern go to it, he means they are dying, and Hamlet says, yes, they are not near my conscience because they did make love to this employment. So he doesn't feel guilty because of their love for the king and their devotion to the king and kind of everything, the whole way that they've treated. So Hamlet then goes on to say on line 76, but I'm very sorry, good Horatio, that to Laertes I forgot myself. For the image of my cause, I see the portraiture of his. So he's feeling guilty for the way that he treated Laertes at Ophelia's funeral, which is ironic because Laertes is planning to kill Hamlet this very day. And then in comes Osric, and I wish we would have been able to see Osric in class. He's played by Robin Williams, so people assume that he's a really important character. His job is to simply tell Hamlet about the duel that Claudius and Laertes are planning. You'll see Hamlet and Horatio make fun of Osric a lot throughout this, but the important part is that Osric tells Hamlet that the king has put a wager on his head. And remember, this is supposed to be in good sport. So, oops, sorry, it's jumping ahead there. Osric says that the king has, wagered all these horses and all of these riches that Hamlet would play against Laertes. And the interesting part is that Hamlet is given a bit of a handicap because Claudius doesn't want Hamlet to not play because he doesn't think he could beat Laertes. But he's saying in 12 passes of this fencing match, he won't beat you by more than 3. So interestingly enough, in normal Shakespearean way, on line 211, Hamlet says, I shall win at the odds, but thou wouldst not think how ill all's hear about my heart. So he says, I'm going to go, I'm going to do this, but something doesn't feel right. And if you can think back to all of your other Shakespearean tragedies that you've read, the tragic hero probably had a moment before their death that they said they don't feel right. If you think back to Romeo, he even said before he went into the party where he met Juliet that that night was going to forever change his life and maybe not for the best. And Hamlet's kind of along those lines. Horatio, as a true friend, says that if it doesn't feel right, you really shouldn't do it. And Hamlet's like, well, whatever, I'm going to do it anyways. And one of his more famous lines, he says, no man of aught he leaves knows what it is to leave betimes. He's saying, like, we don't know when we're going to die anyway. So if we die early, we die early. And then we finally get to the fencing match. So everybody's there. If we remember, Laertes is going to plant a poisoned, sharpened sword. In fencing, the swords are supposed to be blunted. They're not supposed to actually hurt you. So Hamlet goes up to Laertes first and apologizes. And he blames his madness for the way he acted. He says, if it be so, Hamlet is of the faction that is wronged. His madness is poor Hamlet's enemy. So he blames his own madness, his own mindset for what he has done. And Laertes is satisfied in a way with that, but is still moving on with the plan. So they go and they get their foils and they get ready to have this dueling match. And again, this is in sport. So this isn't like a fight to the death. This is supposed to be entertainment. The king talks about the wine, and the reason that he put so much effort into explaining, like, we're going to drink to Hamlet's better health, is because, remember, he's planting that poisoned cup. So he doesn't want it to look out of place there. And then they finally start playing. Okay. The king is very impatient. So right away, he's like, here, Hamlet, come drink to your health. And he drops the poison in the cup. And Hamlet's like, oh, I'm not thirsty yet. Let's play a little bit longer. So the king actually sets that cup of poison down. And the queen says, oh, Hamlet, come on, Hamlet, come have a drink. And she picks up that poisonous cup and she takes a drink from it. And that's what is called poetic justice, because it's poison that will kill her. And the king has just killed like the one person who loves him. It's going to take a while for that poison to sit in. And Laertes says, okay, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to hit him. And to the audience, he says, it's almost against my conscience. So Laertes is feeling uneasy and guilty for what he's doing. This all happens really, really fast. So in the sword, I shouldn't call it the sword fight because it's not supposed to be one. In the fencing match, Laertes does get Hamlet. So Hamlet is hit with the poison. And remember, the poison is, it will kill anybody. So this isn't something Hamlet can come back from. In this scuffling, their swords drop and they exchange swords on accident. And when they start up again, Hamlet gets Laertes. So both Hamlet and Laertes have been cut with the poison sword, and the queen has drank the poison. So that's 3 on their way out already. Okay? The queen falls because of the poison, and everybody starts yelling, treachery, what's going on? Lock the doors, somebody's here to kill us. And the king tries to lie, but it's Laertes who, before he dies, tells Hamlet the truth. He says, Hamlet, you're slain. No medicine will help you. The treacherous instrument is in your hand. It's a sharpened poison sword. Your mother is poisoned, and the only person that we can blame here is the king. Hamlet hears that. He's holding this sword, and he says, the point is envenomed, then venom do thy work. And he stabs the king. Okay. And then Hamlet takes the wine and kind of forces it down the king's throat. So the king's actually the first to die. Sorry, I guess he's the second because of the queen, because Hamlet stabs him and forces him to drink the poison. Before Laertes died, they're like dying one after another here. Before Laertes dies, he asks Hamlet to exchange forgiveness with him, which is very important because everybody is placing all the blame on Claudius. So when Laertes dies, as soon as he says that, Hamlet turns to Horatio and says, Horatio, I'm dying. I need you to live. And so on line 346, he says, report me and my cause a right to the unsatisfied. He wants Horatio to live and to tell his story the right way. So nothing is, all of the blame is placed on the king. Horatio actually picks up that cup of wine as if he's going to commit suicide. And he says, I'm more of a Roman than a Dane. And then there's this Roman idea that suicide can be an honorable action. And so he picks up the cup and we're like, no, not Horatio too. And Hamlet's actually able to talk him out of it. He says, I really need you to live and tell my story, tell it right. Okay. In comes Osric, and Osric is there to announce that Fortinbras is on his way back from Poland. Hamlet says, I will not be able to live long enough to hear the news from England, whether or not Rosencrantz and Guildenstern had died. But he does say something really important on line 361. Now, remember, there's no heir to the throne here, right? And that's kind of a good thing because the cycle of revenge cannot live on. But Hamlet on line 361 says, I cannot live to hear the news from England, but I do prophesy the election lights on Fortinbras. He has my dying voice. So Hamlet would actually like Fortinbras to become king of Denmark, and he dies. Okay. As he dies, Horatio calls him Sweet Prince. He says, "Good night, sweet prince, and flights of angels sing thee to thy rest," which is actually quite a famous line from the play. In comes Fortinbras. Fortinbras asks for the story, and Horatio starts to tell the truth. So we can kind of start to predict whether or not Horatio will tell the story the way it is. He seems to be a very objective voice and the right one to be honest and tell what exactly happened. Fortinbras calls for a soldier's funeral for Hamlet. He says, "Let 4 captains bear Hamlet like a soldier to the stage, for he was likely, had he been put on, to have proved most royal, and for his passage the soldiers' music and the right of war speak loudly for him." So he's saying if Hamlet would have been given the opportunity, he would have been a great soldier and a great king. And so the play ends with those soldiers carrying Hamlet off stage. Okay, so we have made it through. We lost very quickly. We lost Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, the king, the queen, Laertes, and Hamlet all at once. It happened really, really fast. Sadly, the entire scene is not all online for free. I did find a few clips. Hopefully those help. So make sure you take the Act 5 multiple choice. You can absolutely use your book for that. And then I will see you on Thursday. Final option. Make sure you're checking in each week. If you're not checking in, you're at risk of an incomplete, and I do not want that to happen to anybody. So make sure you're checking in each week, filling out these Nearpods, and turning in your multiple choice. Okay, I hope to see you soon.